to live in a company house, you're driving a company car, etc. When the investor comes, everything is gone. And he said, we really want to work with you. So that we became experts, like, I wish I'd watched this, I wish I'd watched this. Suddenly, you're homeless, you had a business, you're not the decision maker anymore. This is the Legend Jasiri edition. My name is Caroline Wanjiku. Others know me as Caroline Kamanja. I'm a social entrepreneur, a mother of two, and a believer, child of God. Yeah, I grew up in a place called Rongai, somewhere between Rongai and Kiserian. So that's where I spent most of my childhood. I was born in 1986 and we moved there in 1990. So that's pretty much as far as my memory can go. And I went to a school called Forest View to begin with for my kindergarten. And then later on joined a school called Kunoni Educational Center. And then went to Hekima, which is somewhere in Bulbul on Ngong Road, somewhere on Ngong Road. And my childhood pretty much was, waking up, going to school, playing around. We didn't have many neighbors, so we grew up with all these animals around us. We had, I think, like 12 dogs. And, there are days we'd wake up and actually find a giraffe feeding on our fence. So the little things that we took for granted then, right now, I'm thinking if we lived in such a place, we'd be in quite an interesting, but those days we never paid much attention to it. We thought, this is the usual, this is the norm. And, but that's where my parents thought they could afford at that particular time. And they were both employed at some point, then they decided to leave. They used to work for the same organization, that's how they met. For my high school, I went to a school called St. Francis Mangu. After that, I went to JKUAT. My dream was to become an engineer. So I was in the geomatics class. And I did it for 1.5 years. It was tough, the whole wearing overalls every day, going to weld, and it was just too complex. Then at that particular time, my dad was in the UK and he lost his job. So when he lost his job, my school fees was around 130,000. So it was a lot for my mom to handle. So we agreed with my mom that I was gonna change my course and I had to start over. So I lost around 1.5 years of campus life because I had to start from the beginning, and I took a cheaper course, which was BCom. I went for internship at a place called East End in Nairobi West. So I started on ground floor. I went knocking, looking for internship. And of course, they'd say, no, we're not offering internship, or it's not in our plans, leave your number, etc. So I tried to negotiate my way, because at the same time, I was buying time before my friend came, but I was hoping to get internship. So I got to a company called Plan at that point, and I found Mercy, who's my friend now. And Mercy told me, no, this is not an accounting firm, so I'm sorry. But then she told me, we are co-sharing an office with someone, you can ask him if he'll give you internship in accounting. So I went and asked him, and he said, no, not now, but leave your number. So I said, okay, let me just continue. Then I found internship at a company called Rush Nairobi. They told me, we are all Muslims in this organization, and we're all men. So having you, we don't have a specific need for accounting services, but if you'd come and become a receptionist, you could probably do some accounting as well. So I was like, okay, should I take this job, become a receptionist? Then I thought, okay, why not? So I said yes to the job. They told me you can start. It was on a Friday. They told me you can start on Monday. I was like, okay, cool. So on my way out, the guy who had told me he'll call me, he called me and told me, you can start on Monday. then I was torn in between receptionist, do I become an accountant, because that's what I've studied for. But then I decided, since these guys took leap of faith with me, let me commit. And so that's how I started my internship at Rush Nairobi. The first week, I remember the first week of being in that office, this guy was passing by and he saw me by the window and he came and told me, oh, I've not seen you around. I'm like, okay, so what's your problem? What do you need? Can we offer you anything? He said, no, I'd like to borrow an envelope. I'm like, I can't give out office resources. So he's like, no, just help me with an envelope. I'll return. I was like, okay, have it, but then you need to return it. So I saved his number as Steve Envelope. And fast forward, he ended up becoming my husband. That's how we met. Yeah, he had just started this company called Daproim Africa. Yeah, and short story, that's how I became a co-founder of Daproim Africa from an early stage of being an intern. Entrepreneurship for me means taking risks and standing by what you believe in. If you believe you have something to offer the world in terms of solving a problem, then that to me is entrepreneurship. It's basically looking for a problem that you're passionate about and finding solutions for it. Maybe in the end, have a goal to make money out of it or to make an impact, but that's entrepreneurship for me. Seeing my mom and dad be who they were at that particular time has impacted who I am now and who I continue to be, because they're this very resilient people, and they came from very humble backgrounds with nothing from their parents whatsoever. And what my mom was really good at was farming. Yeah, we had greenhouses, we had chicken, we had cows. And every morning I'd see her. In fact, I think I'm the only sibling who doesn't know how to inject chicken. All of them are experts in just grabbing them and injecting them and giving them medicine, etc. So seeing how they hustled through looking for orders, in restaurants, and how they navigated the family life, and also balancing between relatives who are not necessarily for us, especially the fact that my parents were getting too many children and they didn't have a lot to offer. That showed me that as much as I want to make money, I really have this impact side of me that was very strong and was my driving force. Social entrepreneurship is where you have a business that is where an organization uses what it's doing for the good of the world. So for us, we say using business as a force for good. Yeah, and fast forward to how Daproim started, just to give a brief, is when Steve was in campus, he did a paper on financial outsourcing. And when he did the financial outsourcing, he realized there was a gap in the market. And he thought starting a financial outsourcing firm was on the expensive side. So he thought, why not do the IT outsourcing part of it? I was doing my final year paper I did on factors affecting business process outsourcing in Kenya. So the factors affecting the growth of business process outsourcing firms in Kenya. So what we did, we combined both our researches and decided this is where we want to focus on. And the social side of the business came again by accident, where we were employing our friends who are again from vulnerable backgrounds, but at the same time empowering them and just paying them as much as we didn't have enough money. And we went for a cocktail with Rockefeller Foundation, and they told us what you're actually doing is called social impact. We didn't know it until that particular time. And why was it social impact? We're employing people from vulnerable backgrounds. We are focused on women. At some point, we even wanted to find jobs for nannies that they can do, on Saturdays, etc. So they told us, what, you're a social organization by virtue of going an extra mile to get your employees, because you could easily just advertise and get experienced transcribers or experienced people in data annotation, but you're going an extra mile to train people who would otherwise not get employed. So we came up with this concept, and it's an initiative called Digital Campus Connect initiative, where we employ university students and we tell them, you can still earn a living when you're in campus. Having that at the back of my mind, I knew there's a lot of potential in this country. We just needed to tap into it. And what better way to get loyal employees than to help people from the ground up, and those guys will never leave. So it was a win-win for us. What we did is we used the available resources, not necessarily money we had, because Steve had, the mom had a cyber cafe, so he went and just took 2 computers from there. The sister had an office that had internet, so we just moved into the sister's office, and that's how we, got around the first hurdle of starting a business, the initial capital. So we used what we had to get to the end goal, and that's pretty much how it started. And then employing a friend, then we'd do odd jobs online, not odd jobs but gig jobs, those online jobs, and you'd get paid, but then pay your friend who's working for you as you try and find your first customer. When we got the 2 computers from the cyber cafe and we set up in one of our sister's offices, it was more of going online to look for jobs. And then we got this guy who had an office in India, and everyone at that particular time knew outsourcing, you can only outsource to India. When you think outsourcing, everyone says, oh, outsource to India. But we wanted to change the narrative and say, why not outsource to Kenya? But we didn't know where to start. So we reached out to this guy, and he said, you know what, I own this company called Flat World. It's actually a very big organization in India. I own this company called Flat World. I'm coming to Kenya next month, but to look for something totally different. I'll come and probably see what you have going on, and we probably mentor you guys. And he came to Kenya. We offered to show him around Nairobi, etc. for free, so that he can also share, so that we could spend as much time with him as possible. And that was the guy who gave us $2,000 to set up a bigger office. And he said, you know what, you guys, your heart is in the right place. Here is $2,000. I'll go back to India and I'll send you work worth the $2,000. But I'm giving you 1 week to get 2 more computers, and please, we need to get a whiteboard. So he took us to Nakumatt Mega, got a whiteboard and a marker, and told us you can't run a BPO without a whiteboard and a marker. So that was an angel investor, an angel for sure. So that's how we got our first money. Our organization, DAPREM Africa, is important to us in various ways. One, because we could impact quite a number of employees, and 2 is because we started it ourselves. It's making us, we can afford now to live comfortably. So that's also very important to us, that not just make profits, but make profits when you're impacting lives. So it's a win-win for us at the end of the day. And how my journey has been quite tough and interesting at the same time, in that, as I mentioned, we started this organization as 2 co-founders with Steve. And then in 2014, he got sick and then he passed on. Sorry. For us, technology is a very big part of our business. And as I said, we do a lot of IT outsourcing, back office IT outsourcing for organizations. And that's pretty much people and tech are the 2 greatest things in organizations. So what we pride ourselves in is that we have people and skills, but at the same time, we have very good infrastructure when it comes to technology. So we have this platform called NicoWorks that we use. And as I said, we employ people in the universities. We have a number of people in our offices, and they're able to plug into NicoWorks and get work from there. They don't have to necessarily be at the office. They can work from anywhere. So all we do is load the work, split it into different, if it's transcription, into different audio files, such that no one particular person gets a complete audio file. So if we have someone, our clients are people like National Geographic, media houses, etc. And if you have a full video of a 1-hour interview, you split it probably into 10 minutes and send it to different people in different parts of the country so that no particular person has a full script. Then when it comes back into the system, it's merged and then we send it back to the client. We are in a very competitive space, yeah, and we are trying to change the narrative. Very many narratives, actually. The fact that you can outsource to Kenya, you can outsource to Africa, you don't have to outsource to India. The second narrative is online work is work. You can actually work online, and gig work is work at the same time. So how we've been able to navigate through all these challenges is mainly keeping hope alive, number one, taking risks. We apply even for the jobs which we know for sure we don't have 100% of the things they're looking for. And that's how I got my first big job, I'd say, after, Steve. And I applied for a job by the World Intellectual Property Organization. I just saw it online, applied for it, and I overquoted times 5. Yeah. So when they called me to just check where we are at, could these people really do this job? I was alone, of course, on my phone, but there were like 15 people in a conference call in Geneva. And they were all listening to me. It's something I'd never done before. And they called me and they asked me, okay, so take us through, we like your technical proposal. You got 100%, almost 100%. Your financial proposal is really bad. So take us through your thought process as to how you came to these figures. So I told them, I'm going to bring in this equipment. And really, I was just doing a lot of guesswork based on what I'd researched on, not necessarily what I'd done before. And I could hear them laughing. They actually started laughing. And I was wondering, what's the big deal? Just give me the job already, One of the guys told me, we really want this job to come to Kenya. You tick all the boxes. You're African, it's an African project. We want to give it to an African. You're female, we want to empower women. And you're in the youth bracket, because I was, in my early 30s. You tick all the boxes, but you're giving us such a hard time with this financial proposal of yours. How about we give you, what our budget is and tell us if you're going to be able to do it? So when they told me the amount, I was like, okay, no, it's impossible to do this job. And they told me, this job, the amount we are telling you, you're actually going to make a lot of money out of it if you plan yourself well. And they said, you know what, we're going to come to Kenya. So you decide, do you want this job? We're going to come to Kenya and we'll help you do this project. And I said, okay, yeah, it's a yes. And they told me, sign the contract, send it within an hour. I didn't have time to consult. I didn't have time to call anyone. I signed the contract, sent it, and they came back here and we were able to digitize the KIPI, the Kenya Industrial Property Institute. So we digitized their documents from the 1913 to 2016 documents. It's crazy. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. This thing of say yes, when you get an opportunity, say yes, but sometimes it's tough. Let's just say it's tough. The fact that I have all these new shareholders and we are all making decisions and they have a right to make decisions. I'm not the only one now who's making decisions. It's really tough. It takes a lot to let go. But before we decided to merge, I had a conversation with someone who had gone through the same experience. And as I said, having peer-to-peer mentorship always helps sometimes. Because this friend of mine from Stanford, he had also gone through more or less the same experience getting investors. And he told me, once you get investors, don't be emotionally attached to your business because it's going to drive you mad. So try as much as possible to remind yourself you're not the only one now who's making decisions. So unplug. If you can, plug in because it's your baby, but at the same time, don't be too stressed. People will come with their own ways of how they think they should run their business. And it might work, it might not, but they have a right to make decisions. It's like buying a new car and the old driver is still insisting on driving the same way and you're the owner of this new car. So that was very good advice for me because right now I'm able to sit back and let other people also make decisions. For me, my advice to anyone who's seeking external investors into their business is start preparing early. For me, I did not. I did not prepare to sell. I did not prepare to get investors. So I was running this business the best way I knew how. Yes, in the right way, but not necessarily to attract the best investor. There are things you can do to prepare. You know, you can have your books in order. If you're not paying yourself enough, have it as a loan. Yeah. If you think you should be paid 1 million shillings, pay yourself what you can afford, the 100,000, but say the company owes you 900,000. Don't not pay yourself, because when you get an investor, those will be stories. If you don't have it on paper, they're not going to refund you for the days you didn't pay yourself. So prepare in advance, get your books in order. Governance is very important. How is your organization structured? Yeah, do you have systems in place? Go in. If you decide you want to be an entrepreneur, don't think twice about it. Don't overanalyze it. Take the risk and plug in, trust God, and look for mentors at the same time. And family is also very important. You need to have a good support system. Family, friends, get the right environment because you need sanity to run a business successfully.